2021. It's finally here and I'm so excited. And today we're going to be talking about the candidate experience. Welcome to this wonderful Talent Tuesday. And this is the LinkedIn Live show where we discuss all things talent acquisition. You can see my guest here today is my very first guest of 2021. He is the founder and CEO of Hiring Transformed, Michael Goldberg. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, Leah Rose. How are you?
I am wonderful. So just a quick intro. So Michael has very extensive experience in talent acquisition, both in the nonprofit and for-profit spaces. And now he has his focus has moved to turning recruiting teams into superheroes. And today he'll be sharing his insights on strategies for creating a better candidate experience. And I'm just waiting for that thumbs up to make sure that we are live. We're going across LinkedIn. Anybody? If you're logging in right now, please go ahead and hit in the comments or the like button, the celebrate button. Let me know where you're logging in from. It does look like we're still waiting, but hopefully we can just continue moving forward. So we'll go ahead and get started, Michael. And then sometimes there's a bit of a delay on the broadcast. So, okay, Michael, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'll let you get all set up. I think we are live. So let me know when you can hear me, Michael.
I think I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that you just switched your audio. That's fine. So we are live on Talent Tuesday. And like I said, my guest is Michael Goldberg. Thank you so much for joining me. And before we get into the full interview, I'd like you to tell our audience just a little bit more about yourself and also about Hiring Transformed.
Sure. And thanks again for having me, and Happy New Year to everybody. So my name is Michael Goldberg. I have been living in Dallas, Texas for the last 30 years. So I guess I'm an adopted son, married a Texas woman. And so anybody that marries a Texas woman, you're going to be moving to Texas. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Originally come from Charleston, South Carolina. So after graduating from college, I'd spent some time building out went to work for Marriott Corporation, where I really got my feet wet in the customer service arena and kind of started in an hourly position and moved my way up into management, but then knew I wanted to do something. And what I wanted to do was I knew I wanted to help people. So I decided to go get a master's degree in human resources management from the University of Dallas. Got my first job in '93 in human resources and have really kind of not looked back. Though in 2000, decided to get away from the negative aspects of HR and really focus on recruiting, talent management, talent development, learning and development. But recruiting's been my true love because I look at it as a big puzzle, and we want to place those people into that puzzle, and it's just like a jigsaw puzzle. It needs to be an accurate fit, right? It's got to be a cultural fit. It's got to be I got to be using the skills I want to use in that job, and I want to be able to bring the strengths that I bring to the table so that everyone is successful and looks at it as a win-win situation. So after going and doing corporate jobs for, 16, 17 years, I decided back in 2018 to form my own company. It's called Hiring Transformed. And our goal is to help startups and small organizations build out recruiting and HR infrastructure so that they're successful. And what does that mean? Looking at the programs, looking at their tools, looking at the technologies that they have in place. What's internal mobility look like? What does succession planning look like? Really kind of laying out the organizational design, but also building out hiring personas and trying to help companies become more successful. And like you said, turning them into superheroes. That's what I want to do. And the only reason I do that is because my Twitter handle is Super Recruiter. So I lean into.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is.
I didn't know that. Okay.
There's a story behind that. Hold on, I'll show you.
Okay.
I was cleaning up, and this is I don't know if you can read it.
Yep.
But you can see Superman and Wonder Woman and It's a DC based theme, but I did this after leading a team to hire 200 sales professionals in a 3-month period.
Wow.
So my head of HR gave me this great award, and Super Recruiter was born when Twitter was born about a year later. And but I've been on this journey to really focus in on helping companies quit treating employees like dirt, or sorry, other way around, candidates like dirt.
Right. Okay.
Right. It's really about, especially during this time when there's so many people looking, it's so important for callbacks to hear about the positions being open. And I'm doing a big presentation tomorrow to kick this off. And I've got several clients where I'm actually going in and helping them improve their candidate experience by going out and doing baseline surveys.
Okay.
Of candidates that are hired quarter to quarter, gathering their comments, measuring recruiter promoter score, net promoter score. Net promoter score is answering the question, would you refer a friend, colleague, neighbor, relative to company XYZ?
So kind of like a Glassdoor, but more on a
personalized level.
Okay. For the companies.
Yeah, it's more like look at it as a concierge service, because a lot of these companies don't take the time. They'll do, like in the larger companies, they will do like paper surveys.
Right.
But I don't think the paper surveys do them justice because they can't give their feedback. Right. They can't.
What about, yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of surveys that come, email style, and they say that they are completely anonymous, but is that real?
It is it is, yes. One of the things that I think is better in keeping anonymity is that when you're talking to someone, you can guarantee that anonymity. What if that survey result ends up in the wrong email box, and someone sees it? Oh, look what this person does, and the gossip mill starts at work.
Right.
So I prefer doing the survey style, and eventually I'm going to be hopefully building an application within the year to help simplify that process even more. But I like the conversation. Number one, it gives me a chance to talk to people and to get real answers. And I'm able to coax those answers out of them versus, well, this is the comments. That box is optional, so I'm just going to skip it. Well, as a recruiting leader or an HR or CHRO, I want to know, tell me why that experience was bad, or what was good about that experience, right? So I like my kind of way. Nobody else is doing that right now. So I'm really excited to be launching full force. It is. It's super excited.
So if you guys, for all of you that are joining us right now, I see we have quite a few people online, which is so wonderful. Thank you guys again for joining us. I have my guests here, Michael Goldberg. Thank you so much, Rawlis and Joe. I see Joe is logging in from McKinney, Texas. Annex Dahlia is logging in from Austin, Texas. I'm in Houston. Michael is up in Dallas area, correct?
Yes. So
okay. And we have a couple. Yeah. If you're just logging in, please go ahead and drop in the comments where you're logging in from today. We are going to get started in talking about the candidate experience. Michael just kind of gave us a brief overview of his organization, his company called Hiring Transformed. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that. What I would love to start out this day with, we're over 2020. It's over. It's finally done. But I want you to look back for just a second. And I think this will be an easy question. I wanted to start with, what was the best thing that happened in your professional life or in your personal life or for your business in 2020? Tell me something great that happened.
The one thing that I learned, and especially in using the LinkedIn platform, I have a LinkedIn live broadcast, is that I learned that it's about giving and helping others. And there's nothing more that makes me feel better about, at the end of the day, when I'm dead, what are they going to say about Michael? Well, Michael actually kind of gave a, what, and he really genuinely cared about me. And I'm not saying this about myself. I'm telling you what people have told me.
I can tell you that from the first conversation I had with you, I messaged you and I told you, like, You were my first call of the day one day, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it totally, we were so engaged and so involved, and you asked me, really meaningful questions, not just about work. I mean, we were going to talk about work and about being on each other's shows, but we talked about real life and real things. And it was such a meaningful conversation. And the rest of my day was just started out great. It kept on going great. And that evening, it was pretty late, I sent you a message and it just said, like, thank you. Thank you for being such a real human
I
and being
remember.
so kind, because it matters. You
Oh, well,
were
thank
a
you.
new connection, and you just being so kind to me was like ground, like earth breaking, shattering it, because you get a lot of no's in business. You get a lot of, negative news, and
Yeah,
2020 was tough. So
it
honestly,
was.
thank you.
So yeah, no, you're very welcome. And so that was personally. Professionally, I think what I'm really, really excited about this year is I actually, for the first time, lined up business. I finally figured it out. It took a year and a half, and 2020 was supposed to be my year, right? Coming
Right.
out, I mean, full guns a blazing, had meetings booked and the whole 9 yards, and then by February, people are starting to see, oh no, it's in the U.S. So in March, oh no, we're shutting down. And
Right.
then that's it. And I had to pivot to being a career coach. Right. And now in the last 3 months, I've really started to focus away from that. And I'll take on an executive here or there to help them. I got certified in UMAP,
Right. I
which is
saw
something we can
that.
talk about if you want. But professionally, I finally figured out that I finally said I know how to be a salesman without being a slick willy. Right? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody wants a
And for
sleazy salesperson. They just don't. They
no,
want,
and yeah,
yeah.
and it's not all about business. And so if you're in a job search, you're a salesperson or an entrepreneur, or you're contemplating whether or not you want to go into business for yourself, it's really just about learning from one another. The business will come if you do right by people and you give back, but you can't just jump into a sales pitch. Like I've got a client that I have a big pitch with in the next week or two. I've been working on that for over a year, and I've
Wow.
just been
That's a
patient about
long
it.
sales cycle.
It's a very long. Most of my sales cycles are generally 2 to 3 months. Right. This one has been a year, and I'll tell you what I did to get it, or hopefully get it. It was a good friend of mine, Jed Gifford, who I went to, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to would you mind being a guinea pig for me?
Mhm.
I want to get some things." This is actually in 2000. Yeah, this is in 2019. I really want to, build out my business, and I'm really looking for friends that can help me so I can come up with this business model and then get your feedback and opinion. And so, you know what? Patience. And by doing that and giving them services for free, and everyone would look at you and go, "Why would you do that?" Well, you give a lot to get something. And so that's just what it's all about. So,
Well, I think the freemium model is actually quite popular right now.
well, sure it is.
People don't want to necessarily put a big expenditure out unless they know that it works. And so I've seen a lot of companies go to that are offering services rather than, even apps are offering that. Use this for free. Let us know how you like it. If you want an upgrade, then you can pay for that. But here's our baseline service and it's free. And I like that idea. And that's something that we've kind of toyed with as well. I've been a lot more giving of my knowledge and information lately. I think that it's opened up a whole new world of business opportunities because I'm not like trying to keep all these secrets. I think that there's great information out there and it's not necessarily trade secret or should be protected information. We can share all of that and we can all learn from it. So I agree. I think that this year is going to be great. I do want to say hello to a couple people that just hopped on. Jackie Anderson, thank you so much for joining us, and Teresa Horde, hi, nice to see you. Or I hope you're doing very well. And Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us as well. So today we're going to be talking about the candidate experience. So let's get started. And what are we doing wrong to cause that very common negative candidate experience from your perspective? What are
Sure.
we?
Well, let's back up. Let's start with the definition, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And a lot of people go, okay, I kind of get it. It's basically the way candidates are treated throughout the process. Okay, yes, but it's not just about from the time you apply for the position. It goes back to when you first hear about an opportunity, your ability to find that position out on the website easily, right? Whether you found it on Indeed or you found it on LinkedIn or you found it on ZipRecruiter or you just went to the corporate website and did it. It starts with talent attraction. And then it goes through to the application process. It then goes to your first interaction with the recruiter, the assessments that you have to take, or the hoops, as I like to call them, the hoops that you have to jump through. And then the interview process and the hiring process and the onboarding process. All the really, I look at the way when I ran corporate recruiting functions, I looked at candidate experience up through the first paycheck.
Okay.
So basically, my team and I would stay in touch with our folks to make sure they received their first paycheck and it was correct and everything looked great. And then we would follow up with them 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year to make sure that everything was going well. The job turned out to be exactly what the interviewer said it would be. Their hiring manager said it would be. So when it boils down to it, so to go back to your question,
Okay.
it's about empathetic communication and follow through. That is an essential must do for any candidate experience, to when you're looking at candidate experience. So what do I mean by that? Having candidate touch points throughout your process. If a candidate calls you and says, hey, I'd like to find out more about this position, pick up the phone and call this person back. If they email you, go, hey, let's set up a 5-minute call. I'm real busy, but I can give you 5 minutes. Be happy to tell you about it. If it's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out. Right? It's not happening right now.
So I have a question about that. For those recruiters out there or the TA teams that are already pretty thin, and what do you say to them? How can they create that, the high touch point, maybe calling people when they already have a massively full calendar and they're overworked? What are you doing, or what can they do to make that process work?
Sure. So one of the service offerings that I put out there is to do that for them. So
Okay.
to be their concierge service and to follow up with candidate touch points by talking with recruiting teams once a week to understand where everybody is in process. But for those companies that say, we don't have a problem, we're just going to do what we want to do. But for those teams that are overworked, I would strongly suggest you either outsource it or hire a human resource coordinator to come in, or a recruiting coordinator to be the voice of the recruiter, because they're in touch and have an internal resource that can be assigned within HR. So instead of letting that person go, focus them to say, hey, no, we have a job for you, because we still have 100 positions open. We need you to keep in touch with our candidates.
Okay.
Right. So that's one simple solution.
One thing that we've done in that space is used AI, especially for your high volume position, not necessarily your extreme high level position where you're going to need a lot of high touch communicative information, but your more your high volume type of positions, we use an AI chatbot that is able to help keep that connection between the company and the candidate to enhance that in candidate experience. Even though it's not that personal experience, it is a text message, an email, a follow-up. Like, we know we're still in this process. Even though I'm only applying for a minimum wage plus job, I am still, the company still cares about me. I'm not waiting 3 weeks for an email. So that's something that we've done. Have you worked at all with any AI or any chatbot, or what's your take on that type of technology?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the ATS providers are putting chatbots in.
Yep.
I know JobVite does a good job with that. There's Grayscale, a friend of mine out of Atlanta who started a company. It's and a recruiting startup guy. For a couple of different companies, has put together a good chatbot. Here's the thing about chatbots, and here's the thing about AI. It builds on intelligence. So unless that chatbot knows the actual status of the position and can effectively communicate where that person is in status, then it works. But the problem is, and to your point, it doesn't replace the human element.
No, absolutely does not replace the human element.
And it is a tool to help you do your job. It is not your job. It doesn't do your job for you, right?
Yep.
As my friend Mike Cohen would say. So you have to, you not have to, you must get that chatbot going so that you're updating the system. It has an update from the system,
right?
Which, guess what that relies on?
Human
right, to do what?
Yeah.
To move the candidate, to either disposition them out of the position, to disposition them or tell them that they're no longer a candidate, and to send a message, right?
Right.
Or I have to physically move it from review stage to interview stage, however you have it set up in your workflow.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. And I would never tout that a chatbot or AI could replace recruiters. Definitely, it's just a tool for sure. For the recruiters out there that are overworked, have too many candidates, too many jobs, too many recs they're working on. It's something that I've seen to alleviate a lot of the more administrative type work. Especially like those beginning contacts. But I don't think that there will ever be a chatbot or a technology that will fully replace a recruiter, because like we've talked about it's a very empathetic process. You have to have understanding and human intelligence to converse back and forth about, these big changes in people's lives. It's not just a job, and it's just not just a career change. It's a complete life altering decision. And I remember when I first started recruiting, it was like such a big deal to me. I remember asking my boss, like, how do you convince people to uproot their lives and move across the country? And he's like, that's what good recruiters do. And they cover all of the bases. They introduce you to the relocation team. They help you understand about the company, about the place you'll be moving, about the people you'll be working with. That's what good recruiters are. Because my mind was blown like, oh, well, what if it's not the best job for them? And he was just like, you have to trust the process. Like, either they will identify that it's not the best job, or you as the recruiter will identify that they're not the best candidate, but it is a process. So I just remember that from my beginning days of recruiting. So on that, I wanted to ask you, what got you into recruiting? Like what drew you to this profession?
I think what really drew me to the profession was the ability, like I'd always done recruiting through my generalist jobs. Right?
Okay. Right.
To hear somebody's voice get excited, or like during the Great Recession, to hear them cry because they finally found a job.
Oh, right.
I could go leap over a 100-story building after a call like that.
Yeah.
And even when I had to tell a candidate, you didn't get a job, you didn't get the job, I always gave them advice, and I was always transparent with them. That's also where recruiting is falling down right now.
Okay. So tell me more about that.
They're saying, well, you're not a fit. I can tell you as a 56-year-old man that I could take that and interpret that 100 different ways. Someone who is Black, someone that is Asian, someone that is Hispanic, if they hear that, I can tell you that's immediately where their mind goes, because they go, okay, I wasn't a fit, so tell me why I wasn't a fit. Mm-hmm. And they go, well, no, we just hired someone better. Well, what does that mean? Right? Now you're digging a hole.
Right.
And you're starting to go like this.
Explanations for legal purposes. Right.
Right. And that's what they're afraid. Look, you can't be afraid of the truth.
Right. If your recruiting process is solid, you cannot be afraid of the truth.
Right.
The recruiting process
and you can't get in trouble for telling the truth.
Right. And it has to be evidence-based, metrics-based, why this person didn't get the job and the other person did.
Right. Yeah. So So basically to me, and I've been told I'm not a fit, and I know exactly what that meant. I think that the more transparent you are in telling the person, hey, you were a great candidate. This person had a little more background in, I'm making this up, data analytics
Okay.
than you did. Well, then my question is, well, why wasn't I ever if I was asked about data analytics, perfect. Love that response. But if I wasn't, oh, what do you mean by that? I wasn't asked about, you didn't mention that in the job posting. It was never brought up in the interview process. And this happened to me. If I may, can I share a story?
Yeah, of course. This is your time to talk and tell us about the candidate experience.
I will not mention the company's name.
Okay, thank you.
Because I have high respect for the CHRO. So in August of 2019, or July 2019, I got a call from the CHRO who said, hey, I've seen some of your stuff on your LinkedIn Live and your posts. I really like what you're doing. I'd like to talk to you about an opening that we have for a director of recruiting.
Okay.
This is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. I went through the interview process. I went through about 6 interviews, and then they asked me to put together a presentation on what the first year would look like. Literally, kept it at as much high level as I could. And I even challenged them. I go, why are you asking for this? Because I'm hesitant to do this. If you're not going to hire me, if you were to hire me, absolutely, I'd show this to you. I'd sit down.
Right. That's a lot of work to do just for an interview process.
It was about 2.5, 3 hours worth of work, because you really had to think, look at your notes from your previous interviews and come up with something. So time goes by. All right. So 6 interviews. Then they go, okay, well, we're ready to start up, but this time we've changed the title. You're going to be it'd be a VP of recruiting, and we need you to go through some more interviews. I go through another 7 interviews. 7
interviews?
We're up to 10 plus 3, 13, 1, 3. Is that right?
For this one position. I mean, is this like unbelievable high level compensation?
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's a VP of recruiting level position.
Okay.
So remember, I told you I started in July. On January 9th, 2020.
Okay.
I go, look, man, I've been as patient as I can be.
So this is a 6-month process at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, and they had a restructuring, and that was the reason I was given that they were doing it, but they were making a VP. Lucky for me, I was still in the running. I was hired. And then on January 9th, which was a Friday morning, I remember this, and I can tell you exactly where I was standing, what I was thinking. He calls, he goes, well, yeah, we've decided to give the job to somebody else because we've decided that because he had learning and development in his background, that we were going to make this a VP of talent to cover both talent acquisition and recruiting.
So they fundamentally changed the requisition.
Fundamentally changed it, was never a part of discussion or anything like that along the way.
Wow.
So.
Pretty terrible experience. I'm sorry that
pretty bad experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible is a good word, but let me tell you the end result.
Okay.
So, and the one thing that's key to understanding candidate experience is it comes with a cost. Number one, it comes to recruiter brand. Your recruiter brand as a recruiter, your brand as a person, as a human being, comes into question, number one. But number two, and where a lot of companies miss out on this and never think about this, is that 76% of the people that have a bad candidate experience will share it on Glassdoor, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter.
Will. And they will let people know.
And guess what the other thing they don't think about? Could I be a future customer? And in this case, I could absolutely be I could have been a future customer.
Okay. And you will never be a customer of them?
No. So here's what happened.
Right. No,
A tree branch falls on my car. It's a collision repair company. Tree falls, not a whole tree, but a big monster branch. We had like 60-mile-per-hour winds, crashes down on my car. I could take it to one of two places.
Okay. And you took it to the one that didn't
I took it to their direct competitor.
Right. Because they didn't make you spend 6 months waiting for an interview or waiting for a job offer that didn't come that.
Correct. And as a result, so after my out-of-pocket, I think the total cost after the deductible was covered was $1,700.
Yeah.
I'm just one person. $1,700 isn't a lot of money.
Yeah, they don't care.
Start multiplying that by 100.
Every bad experience.
300
right?
people that have either applied for a job or have had a bad experience. People are going to talk about it. Yep. So they lost out on my money, and you
as a potential future employee, you as a referral for their great process. If it would have been a really good process, I've missed out on jobs before, but I'm still a champion or an advocate of the company. Like, hey, I still really think this company's a great company. I still would be a customer because they treated me with respect. The process was not horrible, and I didn't get the job because I wasn't qualified or I wasn't the most qualified person. But from experience like that, I'm with you. I would have went to their direct competitor too.
Yeah. So those are the things that you have to think about, and that's why I say be empathetic, because it could come back to bite you from a master brand perspective, from an employment brand perspective,
absolutely,
from a revenue perspective. Really, those are the three key areas that are affected.
So for our audience, for those of you that are watching with us, I want to know about your last candidate experience. So Michael just shared with us a story that, is actually very common, and it's unfortunate that it's so common. I have one very similar to it. I applied right out of school, hundreds of actual applications, and I heard back from one company. It was like the rate of me hearing back was insane. It was like 0.02%. But I want to hear from you guys. Like, have you had a really good candidate experience in the past? And if you have, share that with us. Or if you could just rate your last candidate experience, let me know if it was good or okay or not that great, no super complaints, but it was meh. Or if it was just absolutely terrible. And I don't want to know names of companies or anything. I don't want this to become like dragging any companies, but let me know what was terrible about it, or let me know what was great about your last candidate experience. I think that those would be wonderful topics for Michael to kind of give us some insight on. So, Michael, I have a couple of fun questions for you while the audience is answering about their candidate experience. One thing I love to ask people is what they wanted to be when they were little kids. What did they want? What did you want to be when you grew up?
Wow. A fireman? No.
That's pretty common. Yeah.
You know what I wanted to be when I grew up? I wanted to be, what did I want? It's a long time ago, Leah. You know what I seriously, you know what I wanted to be?
What?
I kid you not. And one day if I hit the lottery, I'm going to outer space.
You wanted to be an astronaut?
I really did. I was fascinated by it. I was alive when I remember vividly, and I was only 5 years old, but I remember vividly watching Neil Armstrong touch the moon for the first time.
That is so cool. I think that firemen and astronaut and, like the adventure and the people that help people, I think that that's a lot of what kids are drawn to. I wanted to be a doctor at first. I wanted to be a lot of different things in my life, but I think it's pretty common. Those are definitely the stickouts for me.
It is.
So astronaut, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was fortunate enough. I was working on a client site in Orlando, and just about 2-3 years ago, and I was in Orlando, and actually SpaceX was sending up one of their first test flights.
Really?
Not unmanned rocket.
Okay,
to
just a
deliver
test flight,
something.
right?
Well,
Okay.
to go to deliver something to the space station.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I asked the concierge, I go, which way is Cape Canaveral? In terms of looking into the sky, and they pointed, to the east. I go, which way is east? There you go. And I saw it, and just to watch this huge powered rocket go into space, and it's
I'm
like
sure
so
that
cool.
was an incredible
I
experience.
mean, I'm attached. I'm attached to every of these, the SpaceX launches that we've had over the last year. By anything that happens, like I saw when the Christmas star, I could clearly see to the naked eye, you could clearly see two distinct planets.
Oh,
And I used to
right.
have a telescope, but I gave it away. But if I had had it, I would have been able to see the rings, and I would have been able to see the dot, because it was Jupiter and Saturn coming together. And they were like this close, but you could tell it was two distinct planets. Fascinated by it. Fascinated. So there you go. Has nothing to do with candidate experience, but there you go.
Well, no, it's just fun to get to know people. And, while I have this show, I mean, I have a captive audience watching and somebody that's so interesting like yourself. I love to ask questions, not just about work. So Rollis actually answered my question about his candidate experience. And basically he applied for a job at a bank and he didn't hear anything for several months. He spent an hour on the application and several hours at a hiring event for the same bank. He was qualified for the job and received notification 5 months later that the position had been filled. I'm so happy they didn't hire me, though. What I want to know, Rollis, is did you ever do business at that bank again? Because I would be that person that would say, well, I'm not going to do business with them. But
is Rollis allowed to come off mute and answer that question?
Oh, Ross is always allowed to come off mute. Yes.
Rollis, that's what you got to tell us.
I want to know, did you ever do business with that bank again?
Yes, I did actually. I still bank to this day. But
Really?
I was a little sore about it for a little while, but ultimately they offer such a great service that I still
You were like, I can't refuse your great banking services and products.
Yeah, but at least even though you heard 5 months, and I heard 6 months later, but they didn't have you go through as many hoops, and that's something. Let's talk about that for a second, right?
Okay.
So the apply process. So whenever and I'm not afraid to say these companies' names, because I like to go out and test the market.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Right.
I apply for
so
jobs. Yep.
The best ones to apply for, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The applicant tracking system, Greenhouse Jobs, Lever, Smart Recruiters, Q Jumpers. Those are probably the top 4 because they're easy. Why? Because all I need to do is upload my name, my email, my phone number, my resume, and if I'm an OFCCP compliant organization, in other words, my company does more than $50,000 worth of federal contracts with the federal government, then I have the option to select the gender. Was I a military vet? Do I have a disability? And then what race am I? Right. So that's, to me, that's what I love. I like to think of it as what I like to call the short application.
We call it quick apply.
Or the quick apply process.
This is my language, definitely.
Correct?
I
So
believe in it.
So I'm not afraid to, I gave you the good. Let me give you some of the ones that I will click off immediately.
Okay.
Taleo, iSIMS, Silk Road Recruiting, Success Factors, Workday. Workday actually is getting better, but Workday is still not a true ATS in my opinion.
Is it because you have to create an account?
Yeah, I don't like creating an account. If I don't want to create an account, why should I create an account? But what the interesting stat here is that if it's less, the ideal application length is 15 minutes or less.
Okay.
Honestly, I think 15 is too high. I think it should be 7 minutes or less.
So we have a process that's about under 5 minutes. So you can do it in 3, and we know.
What tool can you share the tool you use?
Yeah, we use Jazz HR and also Page Up. So those are, and I believe Appcast did a research on this. But if the interview or if the application process takes longer than 5 minutes, you're going to lose 70% of your candidates because it is just too much time. And my theory behind it is that we don't always want just the active candidates. I want passive candidates too, and I want to make it easy for passive candidates to apply for my jobs. I want those people that are happy in their jobs right now, but saw one of my amazing job postings with my video jobs, and they're really interested in my company, and they're just clicking on it on the off chance that I call them back. But because we have an amazing recruiting team, my recruiter is going to call them within 72 hours. They are going to hear from us, and they are going to have a great experience. So that's that's part of what we do in our company and what we preach. And I agree with you. Like, the candidate experience changes everything. Absolutely changes everything.
It does. It does. And the other thing I always like to talk about is the assessment process.
Okay.
So if you remember,
like the selection process of hiring,
the assessments. No, that's another thing, but no, more about having to take personality tests.
Oh, okay.
Timed math and English tests that we haven't taken in so many years, or at least I haven't in so many years.
Right.
And basically, there are a lot of companies that actually put the assessment here. Thank you for applying. Okay, now we want you to take an assessment. If you pass the assessment, then we're going to call you.
What type of positions are these for? Because I was just helping my nephew apply for jobs, and they were, more entry-level positions. And I saw the same thing through Indeed. So you apply for a job, and then it sends you this like assessment for mechanical knowledge or something. And they wanted to assess his proficiency, but he had taken that same assessment like 12 times before. I'm like, how is this even helpful? Because all of the answers. It's the exact same questions.
So with your Juris Doctorate, and I know that these assessments should only be given if it truly relates to the job.
Yes, that's very important.
I'm sorry. If you ask me, as an assessment question, a cat is to a dog as catnip is to a bone, right? And so you're like, right? It's not a valid or reliable to me. I mean, yes, those tests have gone through validity and reliability assessments, but I do believe they do cause some type of disparate impact, which is that unintentional discrimination piece.
Oh, yes.
Right. But we're not going to get into that. But what I will say is people put the assessment process in the wrong place in terms of a candidate experience. As a recruiter, you should have a conversation. And I understand what the recruiter's trying to do. They're trying to whittle down their candidates. But I think it may have been you on a comment on one of my posts over the last couple of days. I thought it was you that said, as recruiters, we should be trying to screen people in, not screen them out.
Yeah, I say that a lot.
And that is, that's unfortunately, that's how recruiting is done today, is it's used to weed out the noise so you get to the qualified candidates. Understood. What happens if there are no qualified candidates in your applicant tracking system? Yeah, now you got to go out and find them.
Right. And are you going to go? A lot of money.
Right. Are you going to go and source a candidate who is currently happy where he or she is and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you about a position, but first I need you to jump through this hoop. And then you're going to jump through a hoop a little bit bigger, and then you're going to jump through a hoop a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. It doesn't make sense. No, it's about building relationships so that people feel comfortable and at ease with you before you have to take an assessment that really isn't going to gauge how well you are, how quickly you are to ramp up in an organization or learn things quickly.
So did you see this, Michael? Anaxadalia says that her first job years ago, she walked in, took a typing test, and got the job. Wow. Can you imagine? That's incredible.
Before the interview? Like, I don't see it, may be on another
platform.
platform.
It's probably, yeah. So, but she didn't even have an interview. She walked in and applied, like, as you know, people that take walk-ins for interviews. She took a typing test and got the job. What kind of job was it? If you can let us know. And then I see that Teresa said that she's currently looking for a position and she's had some interviews recently and phone interviews. And she was really impressed because they've been very professional. So I'm very thankful for that, Teresa. I hope you find something very soon. Yeah, I mean, I love hearing about the good stories too. I know that there's companies out there that have amazing candidate experiences, you know, where candidates actually feel valued and they do accept their jobs. And I would be interested in finding out if a positive candidate experience leads to less turnover in the 6 month to 1 year to 3 year mark within employment. That's something that if anybody knows statistics on that, please share them. But that's something that I would love to know.
Yeah, I don't think, so they say that a good onboarding process the person that goes through a very positive onboarding experience is likely to stay at least 3 years versus a person who doesn't, which will leave within a year or less. All of that depends on the candidate experience. And we haven't talked about this yet, and I definitely want to get there.
Okay.
Is the interview experience. So what recruiters can do, what hiring managers can do to make the person feel comfortable. So, and then I want to, if I can be allowed to share my screen, I want to kind of show you some comments that I got from one of my clients here in a second. But the interview process works like this. As a recruiter, people go, well, they shouldn't be prepped. Shouldn't prep them. All right, I'm not giving them the answers to the questions because I don't, number one, I'm going to consult with you on the questions you want to ask them and what should be asked. And I'm going to help you create the agenda, right? So a part of a good candidate's experience is being a good recruiting partner to your hiring managers.
Right.
Right. So, but I'm helping them be successful. If I've worked hard to bring this candidate in, especially if it's a candidate, it's a long shot because they're currently working and they're happy where they are. But we've got something here that's magical that could really, because we've talked about the cool projects they're going to be working on. They've met the team. They've, done the virtual or physical tour of the office or facility, right? The hiring managers need to prep. And so what I do is I give them, they have their own checklist, right? Review the resume, come up with the questions, come up with the answers you want to hear, come up with the answers that you don't really want to hear. So what are the red flags that you're looking for? On the candidate side, and when I do executive recruiting, I prep all of my candidates.
Yes.
My candidates get the following. They get a name and a link to their LinkedIn profile.
Of the interviewer.
Of the interviewers, of all the interviewers. Will it be a group chat or will it be one-on-one conversations along the way? How much time will be expected of me as a candidate to be meeting with these interviewers? I also took part of my job seeker workbook that I help candidates with. And anybody that's watching and is interested would like to get this, I'm happy to share this with you. If you just shoot me a DM on LinkedIn, I actually help ensure that the number one question asked in every interview is tell me about yourself. So I help them, I give them my worksheet to help them prepare for that answer. I then give them what I've built out to be a template that allows them to put in all their accomplishments, both good and bad, and that tells a story in STAR format: situation, task, action, results. The easier, the easier acronym is PAR: problem, action, result. What was the problem? What were the actions that you took? And what were the results? And I coach them to say, look, you don't want to have that answer go beyond 3 or 4 minutes, but you want to be prepared to have those answers as you go into the interview. Right. And then I also say, here are some thank you note templates, right? That you can send to them that help them. So my goal especially in, executive search, because they have a worser name than corporate recruiters do, right? They're
Right.
notorious for just leaving you in the dust.
Yes.
Is I want to be that person that's helping that person succeed, because I've worked hard to recruit you. I'm not going to let you fall down. There's
Right.
no way I'm going to let you
I'm
fall
going to
down.
prepare you for what is going. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I think that we could do that on a larger scale. We should offer candidates, and I see some recruiters are doing it. They do offer candidates some guidance, like these are who the hiring managers are. This is what they're going to expect. This is what you need to know about the interview. And I think that any information that we can provide about the interview process helps to alleviate that stress and anxiety for the candidate themselves. They know it's going to be a tough process, but preparing themselves and us as recruiters helping them prepare is very important.
Absolutely. So, do I have access to share a screen? I kind of want to
Yeah,
share
of
some of
course
the
you do.
some
Yeah,
of the
as you're doing that, so I see that that it was a job at a call center before online applications. But I do see that her son went in for an interview and they just told him to apply online. And I agree. Jackie Anderson mentioned that, it's just so unfortunate that we do that, that we basically want candidates to apply for our positions, but then we treat them terribly when they actually do.
Right. So these are comments. So from doing
Do you want
my
to hit present so that we can see them? Because they're a little, I think they might be a little small. Jonathan, do you have them up on the screen, or is this too many things happening at once? Live production. It's so
how's
fun.
that? Is that
Oh,
better?
good. Yep, I got it. Client responses, the good and what they enjoyed the most. Okay, I
Right.
love
So
this.
these are actual comments from a client I just wrapped up with in helping them determine what their candidate experience was. Look at the first comment. I had never had a feeling where I left the interview and knew I wanted to go work for the company.
Okay.
Have you ever heard that in your life?
No, never, actually.
Both recruiters and interviewers were so informative that he, the man, was super excited about starting because the culture was nothing I had seen before. And this is a pretty cool culture and company. The company's based up in Ohio, and they do some pretty cool things around in the healthcare space. Really enjoyed the first interaction with the company, and speaking with everyone, you could tell they really loved what they were doing at the company. These are things that, I could add said no one ever to almost all of these comments here.
Said one person one time in the history of
Right.
all time. Yes.
Speed of contact. Once I was
Speed of
referred
contact
in
is
was amazing.
huge. Yeah.
Hiring manager questions were different amongst the interviewers, right? That is huge, because a lot of times you'll be doing that answering that tell me about yourself question about 5 times. But it really boils down to the recruiter taking the time to prepare both the candidate and their hiring manager for success.
Yeah.
Right. Transparency. Look at the fourth one down on the right. Recruiters and hiring managers were transparent on the process.
That's important. Yeah. And
That's
then also
huge.
that they prepared. That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this, Michael. This is great
definitely.
information. So you mentioned that you have a template for job seekers, and you just want them to DM you for that information?
Yeah, a template to kind of help them figure out how as they prep for interviews. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll get that from Michael as well. And we'll post it on the repost of this that will be housed within the Talent Tuesday LinkedIn page. So it will always be there that you can come back and look at it. That's an awesome offering that you're just giving to people. So thank you. Thank you for sharing information. I think it's very important. So to end out today, I wanted to just ask you, what do you think is the most important thing that we should focus on as organizations for creating a better candidate experience going forward? So regardless of what we've done wrong in the past, what can we do better going forward?
Recruiters can be more transparent and more communicative. So when you get that email or you get that in-mail on LinkedIn or direct message on Twitter or Facebook, or your favorite social media channel of choice. At the end of your day, carve out a half hour to 45 minutes of your time to respond to those folks. I promise you, if you just take a minute to answer them, let them know that you don't have an update for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to appreciate that.
Yeah.
When I send out disposition, like I like to not only disposition my candidates along the way, I keep them updated. If I don't think that they're a fit for their background, I send them an email saying, hey, I'm sorry, we're moving forward with other candidates. After reviewing your skills, they look great, but we're gonna move forward with other candidates who actually are local or
Whatever the reason is.
Whatever that reason is. And I'm very direct and personalized in that messaging.
So do you use a template and then personalize it?
Yeah, I use it. I have 3 templates that I use. It's generally for either they just have zero experience. You just don't have any related experience to what the hiring manager is looking for. Right. The company's not relocating at this time. Or, hey, we appreciate you interviewing with us or applying, but the position's been closed or canceled or has moved in a different direction. So those are generally the 3 that I keep at the ready when I need to. But the key thing there is to keep your candidates informed throughout the process. Don't wait until the end when you finally fill that position 6 months later, like poor Rallis. They probably filled the position 5 months later, and then they sent out the hey thanks but no thanks letter.
Or they
just do
fill
it
it
along
into
the way.
Yeah. So transparency and communication. We will keep those in mind. So for anybody that is watching that wants to get in touch with Michael or learn more about Hiring Transformed or about your own LinkedIn live show, can you tell everybody where they can find you and what they need to know about Hiring Transformed and about your show?
Sure. So my social platform of choice is LinkedIn, and you can always find me there. It's just make sure it's at the end of the URL, it says Dallas Michael Goldberg, because there are a lot of Michael Goldbergs out there. They can reach out to me through my website at www.hiringtransformed.com.
Okay.
And then they can reach out to me an email at michael@hiringtransformed.com, and happy to help and answer any questions. But the goal is to help solve the candidate experience issues that are going on today.
I think you have so many great ideas, and the way that you approach the strategy of creating a better candidate experience is just, it's very thoughtful. And I think that that's so important for moving forward with candidates. And I do see that Jo, our executive producer, she has tagged you and she put your email in the comments. So if anybody would like to reach out directly to Michael, please do so. And then on Tuesdays, you host a lunch. What do you call your show?
It's called the LinkedIn Live Lunch Hour.
Okay.
And it generally goes on at 11:30 or 11:20. I know it's strange, but 11:20 to about noon Central Time.
Okay.
There are I'm starting to do a couple a week now. So I've got one, I did yours, so I've already done my live today, then this, and then I've got, I think another one on Thursday.
Oh, wow.
That I'm doing. And
you're like,
so I'm going to try to do a couple a week. I'm not going to be like my friend Gabriel Leal, who every night at 7:30 goes live for a half hour to 45 minutes, Monday through Friday. Which
got a lot to say.
He does have a lot to say, and you should definitely check out his MFSB.
I definitely will.
Yeah. So
I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. I think that you bring so much knowledge and experience to this topic of candidate experience in talent acquisition. And I think that you have just a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate you sharing that with me and with our guests today. Thank you for answering all my questions and being so kind. Honestly, thank you for being so kind to me. It was very meaningful the first time I met you, and it's still very meaningful to me now.
Well, let's not be strangers. We need to
of course not.
But I appreciate you having me on the show.